So I used to smoke cigarettes and chew tobacco. And as far as I can remember, that started in the trailer park I grew up in. Um, my buddy's mom would get these hand rolled cigarettes, right? Kind of like you get like these little empty cigarette paper tubes with the filter on the end. And there was all this unrolled prepackaged tobacco that was ground up and everything and dried out. And so with this machine, you could fill your own cigarettes. And, we would fill her cigarettes for her. We would buy them off of her for 25 cents a piece, right? And, that's the earliest I remember smoking. I remember we were idiots, right? We thought that if you you take a drag on the cigarette and then you blow it into an empty 2 liter, right? So there's a bunch of smoke in there, and then we would inhale it, and we thought like, oh, that's how you get high. No, that's asphyxiation, right? We were cutting off the oxygen supply to our brains. But we thought like, oh, it's like weed, but it's free. No, you're killing your brain cells, idiot. Oh, man. Oh, it's amazing I lived this long. And as I got older, as I left for the military, I started chewing tobacco, right? I did a little bit before I enlisted. I had friends that would dip peach skull, right? And so I had tried it a little bit, but in basic training, we had access to, in basic training, people figured out how to get their cell phones out of the wall lockers, right? And back in 2006, cell phones weren't that impressive, and we weren't allowed to have them. And so they figured out how to jimmy the lock and get the cell phones, and then they would call a local taxi service, because this was 2006 and Uber wasn't a thing yet. And they'd go to the PX on base and come back with logs of, Copenhagen, and then packs of Marlboro lights, and occasionally get a little bit of booze. And, it was a real black market vibe, right? Like 2006, it wasn't America's best and brightest. It was, peasants like me and convicted felons, right? Like, if you had a non-violent, non-sex offense related felony, you too could join the United States Army back then. You didn't even have to have a high school diploma. You could have, they would send you to a GED camp and then send you to basic training afterward, right? I met a couple of guys who did that. I might be wrong on the felony thing. Maybe felony's harsh. Maybe it's convictions, right? I could be wrong there, but it's been a while. I never really looked into it that deep. These are just stories I heard. And so all of these guys that were so good at like black market, drug dealing before the Army, found a new way to continue their business model in basic training. And so me being 19 with a steady paycheck for the first time in my life, I had nothing but money and no real clear vision of how to spend it properly. So I would pay $20 for a can of Skull and $50 for a pack of cigarettes, right? And it was this sort of communal experience where after lights out, we would grab our hidden cans of chewing tobacco and go into the showers and just hang out and chew tobacco and spit it in the drains and stuff. And we had a name for our club. It was called the Shooters, right? Because our motto was, we're shooting straight, right? It was just, that was it. There was no subtext or hidden meaning or anything behind it. We just, oh, we're shooting straight. And like That was our thing. We'd see like, oh, you shooting straight? Yeah, I'm shooting straight. That means we're dipping, right? Like we had tobacco in, which is the stupidest thing. And yeah, and so as I graduated basic training and AIT and everything, went to my first duty station. I would chew tobacco while smoking a cigarette while drinking coffee or like drinking a Coke over ice, right? In the early days.
And it would take me nearly 8 years to quit smoking after my sort of first initial attempts in Iraq. I would go off and on the patches, off and on the gums, all the different ways of supplementing nicotine, substituting nicotine. I remember when I got off active duty and the VA was offering nicotine patches, and I said, oh, we'll give you a box a month for 12 months or something. And I was like, cool. And then apparently I was supposed to quit smoking in 12 months, which I didn't. So I got 12 months of free nicotine patches, which, I mean, and it was such much like coffee, a cigarette was such a communal thing. It was where you took a break from the day. It was where you gathered with your friends, swapped stories, told jokes, that sort of thing. Because when you're a smoker, oh, the smoke smells good. When you're not a smoker anymore, right? You can't stand the smell. It's very strange how much it changes. And there's this shame that comes with smoking, right? Where it's very much on the decline in the United States, of course. But, when I was a smoker, when I was smoking heavy 10 years back, everybody knew that it was bad for you. It wasn't a secret. Nobody was surprised. And it was kind of, it's a highly addictive substance that's been normalized, legalized, and taxed in our society, which sucks because it is so hard to kick it. And I can remember feeling nicotine withdrawals, right? Because you feel the withdrawals through whatever medium you took it in. Where like if you were chewing the gum, you would feel the withdrawals in your mouth, right? If you had the pat, like I remember feeling nicotine withdrawals on my arms where the patches were. And it rewires your brain. Nicotine does. I mean, addiction does, and it adds an extra chemical into your makeup, right? And it tells your body you need that chemical. And then if you don't have that chemical, it's like not having food. That's all you can think about. Addiction's a real son of a bitch. And my wife was probably a big reason why I finally kicked the habit, because I would go to drill with the infantry unit I was in, and I'd buy a pack of cigarettes or a can of chew or whatever, and I would sort of embrace that culture, right? Because the Army was all about conformity, right? And this isn't, all my actions were my own, of course, but my actions were influenced by the culture around me a little bit, I guess, right? If that makes sense. because you want to fit in. And, you know, you first start dipping, chewing, smoking, whatever, because you want to fit in. You keep doing it because you're addicted, and everyone else around you is addicted. And if you change, then everyone else has to look at their own behavior, right? They have to reevaluate what they're doing to their bodies with tobacco. You know, I've even been that guy. You know, I had a guy who, there was a buddy who was trying to quit Copenhagen. And I'm like, hey, you want a little bit? You know, and I kind of peer pressured him into it like an asshole. And because, you know, I mean, at the time I thought it was funny, I guess, but I think I just, you know, I wasn't ready to quit yet. And, you know, seeing him quit like that or try to made me evaluate my own lack of fortitude in that area. And I found myself wanting, and I didn't like that. So I offered an addict more of the stuff he was trying to kick, which was kind of a shitty thing to do. And if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I know how hard it is to kick it. And over time, I would lower my nicotine intake with the patches, right? You get like smaller and smaller patches, and you get smaller and smaller nicotine per day. I tried the gum for a bit. I tried the mints, you know. And I found myself just chewing more of the gum, right? I just transferred the addiction to a different medium into my body. But I remember I got back from my honeymoon and I threw out all my patches, right? And I had 2 weeks where my skin crawled. And, you know, it was rough, but I was married and I had a good reason to quit, right? I was ready. That's what the thing is. Like, the thing about addiction, and especially when it's a socially acceptable one, in that it's legal, you know, no one's going to arrest you for smoking a cigarette. You know, it's not heroin. But the thing about addiction is that you don't really quit until you're ready, right? And I don't begrudge anybody if they're not ready yet, because I remember just how hard it was to get that monkey off my back. And I talked to younger guys. They're like, I've never smoked a cigarette. I'm like, don't. Whatever you do, it's not worth it. Don't go near it. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, it's rough.